Good evening, everybody, and welcome once again to Story Hour. I am your host, Daniel Marcus. My unparalleled co-host is Laura Blackwell. And I hope you're all healthy and safe and taking care of yourselves and taking care of your loved ones. I started Story Hour kind of early in the pandemic during a lockdown phase back in, oh my God, what is that, 2021? Is that possible? 2020, yeah. Two plus years ago, almost 3 years ago, so 2020, right? Yeah, 2020. And my intention was really kind of a modest little dealy jobber. I wanted a place for my writer friends and I to go and read our work to each other and just develop a little island of community in a sea of crazy. And in the last couple of years, it's just grown way beyond that. We've had some amazing authors come through these virtual rooms. Early on, I'm just delighted to bring my friend Laura to share the hosting duties with me, which is great because she has way better social skills than me, and so that works really well. Story Hour, the idea is very simple, and it's what I think of an ancient and time-honored form of entertainment, which is folks sitting around the cave telling each other lies. And so here at Story Hour every week, we've got two authors, about 30 minutes each, doing exactly that. And tonight, we are really happy to have Barbara A. Barnett and Rebecca Gomez Farrell, both of these repeat offenders, repeat guests. They've been here at Story Hour before, and we're just delighted to have them back again. It's our custom to ask our guests to indicate a worthy cause for us to call your attention to. If you're fortunate enough to be able to help financially, that's great. If you're not, then at least you have awareness and maybe you can spread the word or support it in other ways. So Rebecca is reading tonight for voteriders.org, riders.org. Vote Riders' mission is to ensure that no eligible voter is prevented from casting a ballot that counts due to voter ID laws. It's either directly for lack of acceptable ID or indirectly because of voter confusion. Vote Riders educates voters and assists citizens to secure their voter ID. We inspire and support organizations, volunteers, and communities to sustain such voter ID education and assistance efforts. And boy, need it now more than ever, I'm telling you. Barbara is reading tonight for the Arts Action Fund, www.artsactionfund.org. The mission of the Arts Action Fund is to enlist and mobilize the largest grassroots arts advocacy network in America to help advance the arts on both the electoral and legislative landscapes, to promote more vibrant and livable communities throughout the country. The Arts Action Fund's goal is to enlist at least 1 million citizen arts advocates that will help ensure arts-friendly public policies are adopted. So check those out. If you can contribute, great. If not, that's cool too. Just be aware. So our first author tonight is going to be Barbara A. Barnett. She is a Philadelphia area writer, musician, Odyssey writing workshop graduate, coffee addict, wine lover, and all-around geek. Me too. Her short fiction has appeared in publications such as Beneath Ceaseless Skies, Lady Churchill's Rosebud Wristlet, Fantasy Magazine, Cast of Wonders, Intergalactic Medicine Show, Daily Science Fiction, and Flash Fiction Online. Outside of writing, she has spent most of her career working for performing arts organizations, most recently as an orchestra librarian for the Philadelphia Orchestra and the Cabrillo Festival of Contemporary Music. You can find her online at babarnett2ts.com. So Barbara, take it away. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm going to do a short little flash story first, and then a slightly longer one. So we're going to start with the serious one. This is called Swan Maiden. It was originally published in Flash Fiction Online. This windowless theater makes it impossible to keep track of the days, but I am certain that years have passed since Fyodor's last visit. I fear that he has died while his magic has not, for here I still stand, a swan maiden poised forever on point, forever cursed. I often wonder how our Swan Lake tableau looks from the seats. a circle of ballerinas in white feathered skirts, one arm raised, the other swept down and back, the entire body mimicking the curve of a swan's neck. The other Swan Maidens are like ghosts lurking in my peripheral vision, hinted at, but never fully seen. My gaze is fixed on the principal dancer at the center of our circle, Roxana, in the role of Odette, her hair's tight, perfect bun partially obscured by a sliver of my outstretched arm. Fyodor froze her in arabesque penché, with her expression radiating an elegant strength I used to envy. But I've come to learn that her strength was as affected and fleeting as any dance pose. When Fyodor cast the spell, the audience, of course, gave him a standing ovation. It would have been deemed rude not to applaud a man's artistry in his own theater. The parties he threw to celebrate his triumph were maddening. High society flocked around us, ran their hands over us, gushed over the new artistic direction Fyodor's work had taken. Yet for every stranger's hand that molested me, I felt nothing. I watched counts and countesses strike lewd poses with Roxana. I heard their laughter, but had no voice of my own with which to object. I never dreamed that I would long for the cold, sticky feel of spilled champagne until some baron admired the way it trickled down my leotard. You will never age, never hunger, never thirst, Fyodor once told us. You will be forever young, forever dancing. What could we say? People like us had no voice, even before Fyodor's spell ensured that we would never speak again. When the alternative was starvation, you accepted the contracts you were offered, no questions asked. And so now our fates are like that of Odette in Swan Lake. We are helpless, waiting for someone to rescue us from our curse. Yet in a way, it is poor, pitiable Odette, or Roxana rather, who has given me enough hope not to go mad. All this time, Roxana's expression has been changing, the muscles in her face moving in barely perceptible degrees. Fyodor's grand parties thinned after time, as did he. His skin grew wrinkled and sallow, and all that remained of his once dark hair were scattered wisps of gray. He seemed to crumple in on himself, neck and shoulders curved in a mockery of our swan-like poses. During his last visit, he stroked the curve of my raised arm and admonished me for not holding it as high as the other Swan Maidens. Then, for the only time that I can recall, he admonished himself as well. The perfect spell would have allowed me to correct such a flaw, he said. But magic isn't perfect, is it? That was when I noticed the marks on Fyodor's arms, the kind of puckered red sores left by a doctor's leeches. You are family, Fyodor told us before leaving that day. The only family this forgotten artist has left. As more unmarked days pass, I suspect that must be true. The few who come to the theater now speak to each other of plans to purchase, yet they never do. They say the neighborhood is no longer what it was. They say Fyodor's lingering spells are all that keep the vagrants from piling their filth into the aisles. What I can see of the theater has fallen into disrepair. The velvet curtains are tattered and thick with dust. Fabric that was once the vibrant red of fresh blood is now the tired, mottled brown of a scab. The luster has faded from the proscenium's golden trim. The theater chandelier isn't visible from where I stand, but I would not be surprised to hear it come crashing down. The vagrants are probably safer outside. Roxana's expression has finally finished its slow transformation into a look of madness and despair. Whereas my arm is unchanged, Roxana's skin, once so smooth and pale, has taken on the cast of stone, and that stone is chipping. Unlike her, I will not make the ballerina heroine's choice. I will not dive into the lake to drown myself as Odette did, all hope lost. I have begun to move my foot. Every prolonged, infinitesimal motion inspires excruciating pain, pain that demands a scream I cannot release. But before this theater collapses to the ground, I will take my first step in years. And that's the end of the first one. Now, moving on to something completely different. This next one, this slight, extremely mild swearing if you have any little ones that you need to scurry from the room. Other than that, this is called Seer's Salad, which was originally a podcast on Cast of Wonders. There would be no snatching my laptop back from Dia. She slapped my hand every time I reached across the cafe table for it. I had been a keystroke away from deleting the amateur hour comic panels cluttering up my hard drive. Months of wasted effort that Dia was now inexplicably determined to keep reading. Her gaze remained glued to the screen as she shoveled forkfuls of salad from bowl to mouth. "Damn, these are awesome," she said, voice pitched at a chirpy bird-like frequency. "It's like George Romero meets Dostoevsky meets Thelma and Louise meets an alien invasion flick." I shrugged. As much as I wanted to believe I had enough talent to create a successful webcomic, it was hard to take Dia's encouragement seriously. I had seen her get equally excited over blueberry pancakes after all. "They're nothing special," I said, ninja seizing my laptop before she could dribble dressing all over the keyboard. "Just drafts, really?" Dia responded with a chiding wave of her fork. "You need to publish this shit," she said. At least that's what it sounded like through her mouthful of salad. Another bite, and she erupted into a violent coughing fit that sent bits of lettuce and tomato spraying across the table. "Are you all right?" I asked, half standing. "Do I need to Heimlich you or something?" Dia grabbed her water bottle and chugged. "I'm fine," she said between gulps. "I just wasn't expecting that." Expecting what? I studied her meal for possible culprits, only to end up with a case of lunch buyer's remorse instead. The scent of mango vinaigrette made me wish I hadn't opted for the same chicken noodle soup I always bought. "Is there something wrong with your salad?" "No, the salad's great, but the guy who made it, total scumbag. We're talking shoot stray cats with a BB gun levels of scumbaggery." Out of the blue segues like that were why I loved hanging out with Dia. She was random, unpredictable, one of those people who seemed to walk on fairy dust with her big flowered hats and the sparkly nose ring that set off her brown skin. The one time I tried dressing like Dia, people looked at me like I was a Christmas tree on display in July. So I accepted my lot in life. I was doomed to remain boring old Tamsin, trailing one step behind in Dia's glittery wake. Dia stared toward the cafe counter, neck craned. "I should find out where this guy lives and report him." "How do you know he shoots cats?" I asked. Dia's eyes went wide, like a sparkly deer caught in headlights. "Oh, crap, I shouldn't have said anything. It's just that the cat thing caught me off guard, and—" "What are you talking about?" Dia cringed. "If I tell you something, you have to promise not to make fun of me." Dia, self-conscious. That was a first worth hearing more about. "I promise." "It was the salad," she said. "The romaine didn't show me much. Bad pickup lines at the bar, jerking off the movies, that kind of crap." With her fork, Dia pointed from one tomato to another, as if their positioning spelled out a secret code. "The really twisted stuff is in the tomatoes." She had to be messing with me. I'd only known Dia for a couple months. We both belonged to the army of underemployed 20-somethings slinging lattes down the street at the Bean There, Drank That cafe. But it had been long enough for me to know that psychic salad visions were over the top, even for Dia. "You know he shoots cats because of the tomatoes," I said. "I'm afraid to even touch the artichokes." Dia drowned more water. "Anyway, so I was telling my brother about that awesome ginger beer you made, and whoa," I said, "back up. I'm still on the salad and the cat shooting." Dia let out a dramatic sigh. "I see things about people, okay?" "When you eat food." "Not just any food, salad. Salad that person made." She was definitely messing with me. But I decided to play along and see how far she was willing to take this new addition to her manic pixie girl dream routine. "So, you know seeing something awful about this guy was a risk, yet you ordered salad anyway." "He was hot. I wanted to find out if he was a decent guy." "Isn't that kind of creepy stalker territory?" I asked. Dia started to object, but snapped her mouth shut. Her face took on that pinched, tight-lipped look she got in the rare moments when someone got the upper hand on her. "You're right," she said. "It's creepy. Lesson learned. But he's a psycho, so in this case, I think it all evens out." I could have dropped the whole salad thing at that point. I had just scored a Dia concession, after all. How often did that happen? But no, I wasn't going to let her off the hook that easily. "And you developed this power how? Exposure to a radioactive crouton?" Dia shook her head in annoyance. "It's a family thing, okay? Some people inherit blue eyes or curly hair. I got the psychic crap." "So, does this family gift of yours work with pasta salad?" Fruit salad? Or is this strictly a lettuce-based thing? Great, Dia snapped. First I get the psycho cat shooter salad, and now you're making fun of me after promising not to. Thanks, Tam. Way to be a friend. Dia sank back in her chair. Instead of commanding the room with that larger-than-life way of hers, she looked deflated, her traffic cone orange jacket suddenly 2 sizes too big, her polka-dotted scarf 2 feet too long. A sulky Dia-style overreaction, sure, but she was right. I had broken my promise. I'm sorry, I said, but most people would have prefaced this whole salad thing with something like, I know this sounds crazy, but... Dia sniffed, shifted in her chair, glanced at everything but me. The cafe chatter became deafening in her silence. Conversations about workplace drama and the latest episode of some hot new sitcom amplified beyond tolerance. But as I listened to those conversations, those normal conversations, my pity for Dia turned to annoyance. How did she expect me to react when everything she said and did was as outrageously kooky as possible? And this salad thing, play along with it and I'd end up the butt of the joke. Silly Tamsin blushing furiously as Dia burst into a fit of giggles. But call Dia on her bullshit, and she'd assault me with those wide, watery eyes, like she was a child and I had just taken her favorite toy away. Bring on the eyes, I said. Dia cocked her head to one side on the receiving end of confusion for once. What? That puppy dog eye thing you do. You'll pout and give me that face until I say I believe you, and then you'll be the one laughing at me. I hated how harsh my tone sounded, but the words kept spilling out. I love you, Dia, but there's only so much randomness you get to drop on a person before you lose the right to get snippy when they don't believe you. I'm tired of playing the boring, gullible sidekick to your Princess Whimsy Pants. Dia straightened in her chair, mouth agape. Princess Whimsy Pants? Salad, for Christ's sake, Dia. You're making me mad at you over salad. Dia gathered up her vintage purse and the duck-shaped notebook she doodled in when she was bored. I'm sorry, I didn't want to make you mad, but if you feel boring next to me, that's not my fault. That one's on you. Dia stood and strode from the cafe. This isn't about me, I wanted to shout after her. You don't get to be the righteous angry one. But then my gaze fell on my plain old soup sitting next to her half-eaten cat torture salad. The drab versus the colorful. The perfect metaphor for our friendship. Yet still I ordered the soup. Every damn time. Crap, I said, burying my head in my hands. Coolest person I knew, and I had just driven her away with my own snarky insecurity. How the hell was I supposed to fix this? When I showed up at her apartment the next morning, Dia promptly slammed the door in my face. That went well, I muttered, then set to knocking again, another monotonous round of knuckles to wood. Nothing. Please, Dia, just hear me out. More nothing. I pressed my ear against the door. Not a breath, not a rustle, just lots and lots of nothing. Time for phase 2. I reached into my oversized messenger bag, pulled out a covered bowl, and held it up to the door's peephole. I just had to hope Dia was still on the other side and not climbing out on the fire escape. It wouldn't be the first time she'd avoided an unwanted visitor that way. I brought you a peace offering, I said. Still no response. Just a long, uncomfortable stretch of non-reaction that had me peering under the door for signs of movement, then looking up and down the hall out of fear that a neighbor would emerge and think me some kind of creepazoid stalker, which I kind of was starting to feel like. I could tell them about my cat shooting habit and my BB gun named Dia. Yeah, that would smooth things over real nice. Finally, the door opened. Dia regarded the bowl in my hands with narrowed eyes. It's salad, isn't it? I made it. Because I'm sorry I upset you, and I'm willing to believe you about the salad thing. But you have to cut me some slack and prove it. Been there, done that. No one ever likes what they hear. Well, I said, there is absolutely nothing scandalous or even remotely interesting about my life to see, so bon appetit, girlfriend. Dia waved me inside, where I immediately felt like a dark splotch of normalcy intruding upon her magical world of pink beanbag chairs and cinnamon-scented incense. But that was my problem. Dia had been right about that. The only thing stopping me from wearing nose rings and sparkly feathered boas was my own self-consciousness. I peeled the lid off the salad and handed the bowl to Dia. She didn't bother getting a fork, just grabbed a clump of lettuce and popped it into her mouth. You didn't make this, she said, chewing. You sure? Dia barely finished swallowing before following up the lettuce with a slice of cucumber. Yeah, this is from the deli on the corner. The chick with the bird tattoo made it. I just really wish she had washed her hands first. Ew, I said, though a jolt of anticipatory excitement overshadowed the gross factor. I couldn't verify the lack of hand washing, but the girl at the deli did have a mean-looking blue jay stamped on her right bicep. Still, Dia could have seen me at the deli earlier, or it could have been a lucky guess. I reached into my messenger bag and pulled out another container. This one I really did make. Oh, you sneaky little... I'm sure Dia was aiming for mad with the look she gave me, but there was no hiding the half smile that snuck onto her lips. Perhaps I could salvage this friendship after all. Dia traded me the bowl for the new container. Apprehension quickly sent my brief moment of hope packing. If she wasn't faking the psychic thing, then forget about whatever embarrassing slips of hygiene she might see. My dread stemmed from the vast amounts of boring restraint that had been my life to date. One leaf of lettuce might prove coma-inducing. Dia frowned at the container's contents. No dressing? Dry salad seemed about right to sum me up. Dia rolled her eyes. She plucked a cherry tomato from the salad and studied it as if it were a crystal ball. Ooh, she intoned. Oh, would you just eat it already? Dia snickered, then slipped the tomato into her mouth. Instead of chewing, she pushed it from side to side with her tongue, making each cheek puff out in turn. I glared. She smirked. At last, Dia started to eat. First the tomato, then a sliver of carrot, next a clump of avocado. My stomach engaged in a series of somersaults as more and more bits of salad passed between Dia's lips. Cucumbers, onions, olives, croutons. Her jaw moved up and down with careful, excruciating slowness, as if mastication were a sacred rite that had to be performed ever just so. Dia could have been dragging it out just to screw with me, yet with each swallow, I grew more certain and fearful that she simply hadn't found anything of interest in her visions. Her expression remained unchanging, blank-eyed look of veggie-inspired ennui. For the record, Dia said, it's kind of insulting that you think I'd have spent all this time hanging out with a boring person. Granted, your social comfort zone is this teeny tiny microscopic little thing that could use expanding, but boring people don't teach themselves how to brew their own beer out of every random ingredient under the sun. They certainly don't create comics about a badass lesbian couple fighting alien zombies in Russia. A slight smile found its way onto my lips. I didn't sound nearly so dull when she put it like that. So what is that what you got from the salad? I asked. That I'm cool but insecure? Screw the salad. This is me talking. I love you, Tam, and I don't want you to be anyone but you. But sometimes I get the feeling that you won't let you be you. Like you think you have to be me or something. Bam. Salad visions or not, Dia had nailed it. My obsessive coveting of her flashy style had sucked away every last bit of confidence I had in my own. But I didn't need to wear sparkly clothes to be interesting. Hell, I didn't even like sparkly clothes. What I did like was the would-be webcomic wasting away on my computer. I had the domain and the hosting secured, site designed, at least 6 months worth of strips ready to publish. All I had to do was launch the damn site. But nope, I kept chickening out and convinced no one would be interested. Dia chomped on a withered shred of iceberg lettuce. Her eyes widened and she squealed, pointing at the salad as if it held the cure for cancer. Oh my God, this is exactly what I'm talking about. What? Your comic. You've had the whole site ready to go for like months now. And Siberian Genome, you told me you didn't even have a decent title, you liar. What the hell are you waiting for? Whoa, I gaped at Dia. I hadn't shared those details with anyone, making me suddenly certain of two things. My friend really did have psychic salad powers, and I didn't have a damn thing to lose. Because seriously, psychic salad powers, that was kind of mind-blowing. That was the kind of thing that spends hours sinking in before the full impact of it slugs you like a brick-loaded boxing glove in the middle of the night. So if I could hold the interest of a person who received salad-based visions, then I sure as hell could get some eyeballs in my webcomic on a regular basis. What the hell am I waiting for? With a little squeal of my own, I plopped into a beanbag chair and whipped out my laptop. Let's get this puppy online already. About damn time, girlfriend. Dia squeezed onto the beanbag with me. One suggestion, though? I'm all ears. Sparklier background on the webpage, she said. As in, it currently has no sparkles, just purpleness. You're the sparkly one, salad girl. I knocked Dia off the beanbag with a playful shove. This is going to be my thing, and my thing does not include sparkles. And that's the end.
Thank you. I really enjoyed both of those a lot. Thank you very much. It's our custom just to have a moment between authors, just to kind of let the previous work settle in and resonate and rattle around inside you and do whatever it wants to do. So we're going to do that before we move on. Just kind of chill for a second. Barbara A. Barnett, thank you so much. Our next author is Rebecca Gomez Farrell, whose replicator order is Sazerac, neat. Her Wings Rising epic fantasy duology is published by Meerkat Press, and book 2, Wings Unfurled, is now out. Feel free to show the cover or do whatever you'd like to do. There it is. Awesome. Becca's shorter work has appeared over 30 times in magazines, websites, and anthologies, including Beneath Ceaseless Skies, It Calls from the Sky, Pulp Literature, and A Quiet Afternoon 1 and 2. Becca co-organizes chapters of Women Who Submit Lit and the East Bay Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers. At thegourmets.com, she has a decade of experience as a food and drink influencer. Social media, at @thegourmets. Her website is RebeccaGomezFarrell.com. Becca, thanks for joining us again. The floor is yours.
Thanks for having me. It is always a pleasure to be a guest of Daniel and Laura at the Story Hour. Awesome. Yes, my Wings Unfurled, here it comes again, was published just 2 days ago, and it is the sequel to Wings Unseen, which was published several years ago. I am a slow writer, but they are now both out, and they're actually epic fantasy novels. And what I am reading you tonight is definitely not epic fantasy. Like most speculative fiction writers, we kind of like to dabble in all sorts of genres. So tonight I'm going to read you humorous science fiction. This piece is called Garbage, and it first appeared in a Fark.com anthology. If you are not familiar with Fark, it's actually like an early predecessor to like Reddit, but unlike most like social media forums, it's actually gotten tamer over time somehow. I don't really know, but they do release an anthology of writing from members of Fark.com every year. So this one was published out in 2017, which now that I think of it, it is the same year my first book was published. Maybe I was on topic somehow that way. Anyhow, I hope you enjoy Garbage. There's not any cursing, just a little bit of grossness and definitely prejudice, plenty of prejudice. All right. My next door neighbor, Mrs. Daubney, had a face like an over-ripened tomato, seeds about to burst from its stretched thin skin. That face played a starring role in my nightmares at the age of 17. Something was always yanking her chain, and I'd gotten far more than my fair share of her yanking in response. Too many cholos and lacingo around for her liking, Pa had once explained, before smacking my ear and telling me to mind her anyway. That day, the baseball-sized goiter on Mrs. Daubney's neck jiggled as she kicked our city-issued trash bin resting at the curb. The bin was the color of the grass clippings Jaime smells Cato and I had tossed into it not 10 seconds earlier. Connor Sanchez, she railed. I am sick and tired of this eyesore. It's a disgrace keeping your trash out here every day. The HOA regulations clearly say, I know, Mrs. Daubney. I didn't want to undergo another of her tirades. I'll pull it behind the house right now. That you will, that you will. I will not have our neighborhood looking like we're a bunch of do-nothings who park their cars in the yards and keep, she kicked the bin again, trash all over the place. People will think we're trash, let me tell you. And the types of folk that it attracts. Yes, Mrs. Daubney, I called over my shoulder, already halfway back to our back gate and rolling my eyes. I'd heard all her complaints before and then some. I wonder if she yelled the same way at the Smiths down the block. whose cans were also at the curb still, or if I got special treatment. Didn't matter that I'd been born here, and my parents too, and theirs. People like Mrs. Daubney were eucalyptus, planting roots one day and pretending they'd always been there the next. As soon as we were out of earshot, Smells laughed and laughed. She's a nutcase off her rocker. Smells, my best friend, dressed like a Venice beach bum with loose hemp pants and a collection of ratty t-shirts he'd found who knows where. That day's peeling letters on his chest read, "Built like a Mack truck." I nodded. Mrs. Daubney was a relic, left over from when our neighborhood had been a planned development in the 60s, not the free-for-all it was now of anyone who could convince a bank to offer a high-risk loan. That's what we'd always be considered, high risk, no matter how much we intermixed. No one should care that much about trash cans. The bin's wheels grated over the rocks, sounding sharper and louder than the power saw's screech and machine chop. I hated the sound, but Ma insisted we leave the garbage all the way in back, not right by the gate. Mrs. Daubney may have been a crazy old bird, but Ma was insane. Joker from Batman insane. I knew better than to test her. You know what we should do? Smells had that glimmer in his eye, the same one that had earned us 2 weeks detention when Miss Elliott had been called out of the room during driver's ed. We'd drawn over 3 pages of her calendar by the time she'd returned, using red markers to turn kittens into splayed out corpses from red asphalt 4. She didn't agree that we were merely demonstrating what we'd learned in class. What? I dared ask. We should take your garbage and toss it all over her yard. The idea so excited Smells, he did his signature spin jump. I wondered if tossing garbage in neighbors' yards was how Smells got his nickname in the first place. Rancid or not, he sure knew how to have a good time. I waited about 20 seconds before saying yes. At 9:30 p.m., we began, thinking Mrs. Daubney would probably be in bed by then. She was old, right? We were not so lucky. Her loud, cigarette-tinged voice became audible the moment we slid the latch open on her gate. Her back sliding glass door must have been open a crack, because we could hear her muttering loud and clear from the kitchen. She'd made it into an art form. Such ingrates. You can't ignore that stink. It's uncivilized. When others come, they'll see, won't they? They'll see. Smells and I crept forward in the dark, clutching one filled white trash bag between us. We debated rolling over the whole bin, but decided that much garbage would have been overkill. Tread lightly and leave your mark swiftly, I told Smells before we'd left my house, sure it was some sort of ninja code. I should have asked my friend Cowrie from the machine shop to be sure, but it sounded cool. Thankfully, Mrs. Daubney's back was to us as we advanced. 3-foot-high piles of newspapers, paper cups, and who knew what else covered the kitchen table where she sat. She wore the same clothes as earlier, a gray pair of slacks with a yellowed sweatshirt that read Bowler number 12, Jane County League on back. She'd tied her just as yellowed hair back with a bandana, and her goiter shone like a gargantuan pimple, so swollen a scratch might pop it. I shuddered at the thought, though I'd been scolded by Ma not to stare at people who had them, like my uncle Arturo. Did Mrs. Daubney count as people? I wasn't so sure. Let's do this. I pulled out a clamshell container of leftover Indian food with my gloved hand. Smells and I worked fast, distributing garbage over the yard and keeping pace with the steady drone of her rants. I've worked hard making this neighborhood what it is. And what do I get? Insults. They just don't know. They just don't. When she stood, I covered Smells' mouth to keep him quiet. We crouched low, keeping out of her peripheral vision. A half-empty plate in hand, she navigated her way to the sink through her goat trails of multicolored junk, shrines to the waste she never tolerated outside her own walls. What a joke. Smells and I shook our heads in disgust. How long have we lived here? She said. 50 years if it's been a dozen. I'm not going to fall asleep now, am I? Humph, hardly. I was reaching past the remains of a tuna sandwich when it happened. The goiter pulsed against her neck like a sack of jumping beans. The skin over it flushed orange-red, and blue cheese veins streaked through it. A 3-inch slit appeared on the goiter's surface. breaking the surrounding skin into flaps that billowed like aquarium plants in a current. Something flesh-colored but thin and round as a tree branch launched out of the gap, unfurling. The disgusting mucus-coated thing had a knobby tip, or it had a knobby tip, until that cracked open like a fortune cookie and a hand-sized gaping mouth propelled out. I swear it could have been one of those balls and chains from Super Mario Brothers. Those things are hell to get past. That thing with a mouth licked the plate clean, then dove toward one of Mrs. Daubney's piles on the floor. It chewed through the refuse in seconds. Smells and I were cemented in place with horror, or maybe shock, or maybe that's all the same. It's hard to know these days. Now, Mrs. Daubney patted the pet as it ate. Don't eat too much, you'll get a bellyache. That's all I need, these people thinking I have gas pains. Such ingrates. Someday they'll realize what I do for them. Someday when they least expect it. Through an exchange of frightened blinking, Smells and I realized the someday she spoke of was right then. We'd certainly never expected this. Smells dropped the fast food cup he held, and we slipped over Mrs. Daubney's freshly watered lawn to the gate. We reached the sidewalk, but the sight that greeted us made us wish we'd slipped some more and never made it out. In front of the Smith's place, in a yellow haze of streetlight, 6 or so grown-ups hunched over an open garbage bin at the curb. But that wasn't all that hunched. Each person had an extra appendage like Mrs. Daubney's, shooting out from their necks or shoulders or stomachs. Smells and I froze, but a breeze kicked up and the little monsters raised their heads to the air, sniffing. Gaping mouths pointed towards the sky, then veered in our direction. The adults' heads swiveled with them, and the whole group took a step toward us. Smells gripped my arm, and the rank scent of week-old kitty litter came with him. My jaw dropped, realization dawning fast as if a skunk had sprayed it. It's you they want. I'd always known he was bad news, or bad odors at least. I jerked my arm away, about to make a bad dash inside. The posse crept closer, goiter beasts jerking like leashed dogs, forcing the way. The aliens themselves were a bunch of nondescript gringos dressed in varying degrees of oversized sweatshirts, warm-up pants, and slip-on loafers. I'd have steered clear of them even without their pets. Connor, Smell's voice squeaked like his balls had just dropped. You can't leave me here with them. You can't. His house was around the next block. I was about to tell him what I could do when a door slammed and a chemical vanilla mist enveloped us, making me gag. Mrs. Daubney rushed past us, brandishing 2 bottles of air freshener. Her companion held a third between its lips. She walked right up to the advancing aliens. Her people, I guess, but she didn't treat them that way. Get on now. She shook and sprayed those cans, kicking at the intruders as if they were pesky strays. You don't belong here, she proclaimed. This neighborhood's for proper folks, not the likes of you. Stomping forward with intent, she pushed back their line until they were well past the rusting gate at the end of the street. Now scram and don't come back. The aliens retreated into the next subdivision shadows, coughing and sputtering as they went. It was a wonder none of the neighbors came out to investigate, but I suppose everyone was used to Mrs. Daubney's rants. She tossed the cans in the nearest bin, made sure the lid closed, and stared down the road a few minutes. By the time she turned around, her pet had retreated into her goiter. Thank you, I managed as she drew even with us. It came out more like a question than a statement. Her eyes, bloodshot and glistening, narrowed as she looked first me, then Smells, up and down. Sweat beaded on my brow, and I feared I'd never reach second base with Julie Chen again. The goiter rustled. I'm not so loco now, huh? She went inside. Best get some sleep. Tomorrow, we begin. The door latched behind her, but it opened on the knowledge that it wasn't us she hated. It was them, her own people, swimming upstream on planet Earth like snakehead fish. I woke to Smells pounding on my window to be let in. He was dressed in a white shirt crisp enough for confirmation. As he tumbled into my room, I caught a whiff of strong floral perfume mixed with Old Spice, a combination so noxious I had to breathe through my fingers. Did you see it? He talked faster than my sleeping brain cells could follow. See what? Those creatures last night? Of course I did, you idiot. No, I mean yes, I mean here. He shoved his phone in front of my widened eyes and pressed play on a video. A headline ticker streamed, announcing, Earth invaded by waste eaters from outer space. President to speak at 10 a.m. Eastern. To my surprise, Mrs. Daubney was at the podium, her face redder than ever as she spoke to a room full of press. Yes, it's true. Her expression was grim, mouth drawn in a tight line. We have lived disguised among you for a generation, drawn by the sweet aromas of your mountains and islands of waste. We, the first wave, knew others would follow someday, but we lost contact with them many decades ago and hoped they'd given up on the notion of relocating here, perhaps considered us a failed mission. We wish you no harm, consider your way of life our own, but they haven't lived with you like we have. They don't know that our appetites shouldn't be flaunted out in the open, what respectability means in this world. And now they are here, in who knows how many numbers. Their very presence threatens your cultures and values, the ones we have learned are true and proper. They must be contained. Her pet protruded from its goiter cocoon and the crowd gasped. My distinguished brethren, Mrs. Daubney continued as the appendage's jaws clacked together in a tinny drum beat. It's time to expose ourselves, to reveal who we are and where we live so we can lead the humans against these invaders. Who knows how long those uncouth mongrels have been hiding in overgrown canyons and abandoned parking lots. They may have raised a whole army lurking in the shadows and ready to attack. Raise high your minivacs and push brooms and show the humans the way. A can of air freshener rattled as she shook it, and the press members cheered, won over by her fervor. I knew myself that she meant us no harm. The night before had been proof enough of that. We had to lend our voices to support her story, right? Smells disappeared down the hall and came back clutching a pair of microfiber dusters. A thrill coursed through me as I took the thin metal handle of the flamingo pink one he offered. Today, I would be born a new man, a warrior to protect my planet from the likes of waste eaters. Let's go, Smells. I rose from the bed, went to change my clothes. Jaime, he said, grabbing my wrist. Just call me Jaime now. 15 years later, no moment signifies the difference between before and after for me more than Jaime's simple request to call him by his name. It sent a seismic shift through my core. Our world would never be the same on a fundamental level. The firsters, the title we bestowed upon Mrs. Daubney and her friends, led us in a rallying cry of latch and lock as we orchestrated our first strategic attack, securing all trash can lids. I later joined the Weed Brigade, learned to keep my lawnmower and yard clippers ever sharp and at the ready. We would overcome these monsters with sanitation and fastidiousness. Whole towns cleared vacant lots of all debris and made sure the fescue never rose higher than 3 inches. In our wake, we left a treasure trove of diamond-patterned lawns that yelled louder than any battle cry. But more waste eaters came, like weeds rising ever higher through the cracks of the earth's cement. They lumbered through our streets with a laser focus on piles of dog crap that the sweeper brigade had missed. Always, always more of them appeared. Is it any wonder we demanded that people with goiters carry identification? Uncle Arturo had protested when I dragged him to the DMV for a new ID to declare his species, but none of the firsters had complained. Why should he? After a decade of battling our foes, salvation came from under our noses. We had learned to fear our refuse, to treat it as a threat, a void that drew the darkness. But it could also be an invitation. And the aliens weren't the brightest creatures. We'd dug moats around our municipal dumps and had filled them with antibacterial gel. So instead, we drained those dry. Then we tore down the baking soda bricks we'd used to reinforce the dump's chain link fences. The waste eaters swept in by the multitudes, unable to resist the siren's call of methane in our newly sanitized world. Even a few of the firsters were drawn in. We locked the gates behind them. How were we supposed to tell the difference? To this day, the aliens remain in the garbage, seemingly content. They gorge themselves on our discards, broken USB cords dangling out of their second mouths as they recline on mountains of refuse. We have enough waste to keep them fed for centuries, but still, our fear remains. Can such creatures ever truly be satisfied? Production has just begun on the newest model of vinegar cannon, just in case. Jaime was by my side those first few months, but I couldn't handle the new scent he'd drenched himself in. Something about that cologne combination turned my stomach. I could never figure out what it was. Yet whenever I catch a sewer whiff from a manhole cover, I think of my old friend, Smells. Then I fill that sucker in with cement. The end. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Becca. You know, we say this almost every week, Laura, but you know, we don't try and coordinate programs here. We don't say, well, next week we're going to have this kind of like gut-wrenching emotional story, so bring your deepest, saddest, most heartbreaking work, and the next week after that we're going to have something that's just sheer entertainment and fun. But somehow it just works out that way. So Barbara and Becca's stories just work great together as a program. So I want to thank you both for joining us again at Story Hour. You're both, of course, welcome back anytime. And thank you all for joining us again for another week of Story Hour. We couldn't and wouldn't do this without you. So thanks for coming back. Next week, we have Elad Haber and Kate Hartfield. So it's going to be a great program between now and then. Oh, of course, I want to thank my fabulous co-host, Laura Blackwell. Between now and then, please take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll see you next time. Good night, everybody.